Hey guys, welcome back to Cheddar. Closing bell. Donald Trump, of course, signed an executive order to roughly double the funding for U.S. apprenticeships, and the grants and $200 million back in June. Now, the apprenticeships are an alternative solution to the trillion-dollar student debt crisis, and are key to keeping the U.S. manufacturing sector. Are they the key to keep the U.S. manufacturing sector alive? Joining us now to break it all down, he's Tony Uphoff. He's the president and CEO of Thomas Publishing. Tony, such a pleasure to talk to you. So, how do we bring these jobs back?
Boy, it's not a simple step, but I do think programs like this will help, the apprenticeship program. If you go back about 50 years ago, the vast majority of manufacturing businesses in this country were established post-war, post-World War II, and they were established by people that really understood how to work with their hands and do custom manufacturing. Over that period of time, a few things have happened. One is we've seen a massive focus on four-year degree programs and less focus on vocational or training for kind of hand, manufacturing type of jobs and that kind of thing. The other aspect about it is that generation is starting to retire at an astounding rate.
Right.
So you've got this enormous number of US-based, mostly small to medium manufacturing companies. Every product you use is working with these companies to manufacture small pieces that go in it. But these, the founders are retiring. The next generation went to four-year schools and are less interested in doing it. So programs like the apprentice program is fantastic to see. The increase in money is fantastic to see. We're still struggling a little bit to get that money into the right places to have the type of impact we need.
And how are these apprenticeships actually formed? So are companies already offering them today, and do students know about them? Are they aware?
It's a great question. The answer is yes, there are programs in place right now. The awareness is very low. So the previous program created under the Obama administration was about $90 million. As you just said, the new program is proposed at $200 million. So there are existing grants, if you will, going through in that $90 million program. The gap really is in, this can't be a top-down program. It's got to be a bottom-up program. So what's starting to happen, slower than frankly any of us would like to see, is that engagement at the grassroots level. Local trade associations, local manufacturing companies working to bring this together. There's also an educational component where the vocational schools in our country have really collapsed, and that's a part of this we need to bring back as well.
Right, vocational schools are really at that high school level, or they used to be. At the college level, we hear a lot about internships, and I don't think I've ever seen a company come to our school and say, look, we're offering an apprenticeship. So is there a way that they can go into colleges, but are colleges also the right target audience for these apprenticeships?
It's a great question. So some of the programs are starting to go directly into the high schools and establish not unlike, let's call it an internship with a little bit of money attached to it that we could, position as an apprenticeship. So that's starting to happen slowly but surely, but we need a lot more focus at the grassroots level. The numbers are about right now close to 500,000 jobs that are held open, that they just can't fill based on the skills gap. We think by 2025 that could grow to as much as 1.5 million to 2 million jobs that simply can't be filled based on the skills gap.
All right, and with the expansion of apprenticeships, do you think that this potentially would save a lot of kids student loan debt and all that other stuff? Because there's so many kids that graduate from school, they might have a generalized degree, and then they're backloaded with $30,000, $40,000 in student debt that they'll be paying off for the rest of their life.
It's huge, right? Think about that. So I think the average is somewhere around $38,000 for a four-year degree of debt. That's the average. We know at the high end we're talking six figures, right? So this is an enormous amount of money, and many young people can't outrun it, let's be honest. And so I do think two things. One is not everybody is set, either intellectually or capacity-wise or interest-wise, to go through a four-year degree. Secondarily, I do think we are creating a huge debt bubble with a lot of the student debt that is alarming.
Right. One thing that we talk a lot about here on Cheddar is this carving out of the middle class, right? Because we're seeing some of these jobs going away for whatever reasons, but I think a lot of it has to do with technology and the automation. And so a lot of these jobs, I think, are going to be really, I guess, diminishing over time, the apprenticeships. Or am I wrong? I mean, so the apprenticeships now might work, but then maybe in 10 years, what will those apprenticeships look like?
So we are seeing the inexorable march of technology. There's no two ways about it. And technological change always precedes cultural change, meaning some of the modernization of the manufacturing floor has changed the way the jobs, but now we're starting to adapt to it. So if you're familiar with the term Industry 4.0, which is basically the fusion of digital technologies like the Internet of Everything, cloud computing, mobile devices, with traditional industrial products and services. that's creating a whole series of growth opportunities within the traditional industrial markets. So yes, technology is not displacing but disrupting, but we also can clearly see in the data that this may create all kinds of new jobs in the manufacturing sector. So there are jobs. I just think that right now we don't have a great mechanism for training, developing the kind of balance of art and science, because some of this is technical skills, some of it is you can only learn through experience of custom manufacturing.
And you hit on my next question, I just want you to expand a little bit about the Internet of Things. How is that going to change the manufacturing sphere?
Yeah, it already is. So this is the biggest thing to happen in the last 150 years in the industrial markets. It will literally change everything. So as a simple example, the last airplane trip you took, the data from that jet engine was being sent back to the manufacturer of that engine, right, in more quantity than it is to the pilot of the plane.
Right.
So we're starting to now steer, no pun intended, these products and services based on the data. Buildings like we're sitting in here at the New York Stock Exchange, the amount of technology that's here, but if you look around you, it's infused in traditional industrial environments and products and services. So that fusion is going to really accelerate. All the IoT or Internet of Everything means is that the planet's now wired, and we can hook almost anything to the internet now through sensor-based technology, relatively cheap and inexpensive. You're going to see self-repairing buildings, self-repairing pipes, all kinds of things that will alert people to things, alerts and systems that we didn't really have before. So this is opening up whole new areas of opportunity in the industrial marketplace, whole new areas of complexity too. It's not easy to manage through some of this stuff.
And how can apprenticeships also change the balance or the imbalance of the lack of diversity in certain sectors? Yeah,
there's a big focus on STEM for women, which is one part of this thing, and then manufacturing for women. And I don't think that's enough. I do think that focus on those vocational schools and diversity programs are really going to help enable it. There are some government programs that benefit diversity and minority-owned businesses who are also in manufacturing, where they get some benefits from the government. And if you're bidding out for a government job, you have to look at 2 or 3 of those. We see that on our ThomasNet platform all the time, but it's still not enough. I think there's a big opportunity there.
And where does the money, of course, President Trump, of course, announced the apprenticeship program. Of course, it's interesting, of course, him being on The Apprentice. Of course, he's doing the apprenticeship program. And I was at the White House when he signed this executive order, roundfully applauded by a lot of people. Where's the money coming from this? Is this existing funds from the Labor Department? Where is he going to be pulling a lot of the money to help with the doubling of this?
As of yet, that's a little unclear.
Okay.
And so there's some debate about that. I would say, I think that money is going to become available. I think that's realistic to assume. We are seeing a growth in US-based manufacturing, particularly in light manufacturing, so the trend is very positive. And I think the government will approve this, whether it'll be at the full $200 million level or not remains to be seen. And exactly where they pull that money from, it's not completely clear yet.
Sure.
Okay, and what do you think in terms of the next couple of years, we'll be able to see measurable progress on this? How will we be able to measure success through this program?
I think jobs being filled, number one. And I think that's something we're already starting very early, but we're starting to see it. The other thing is the perception around these jobs is very positive. Deloitte just did a survey showing a significant lift in the interest in manufacturing jobs and the kind of sex appeal, if you will, of these are kind of cool jobs. A lot of younger people wanting to work with their hands again and kind of get back into those types of work. So I think those two trends, one is the filling of the jobs, and I think the second component is the ongoing perception around these jobs is something that are valuable.
Really fascinating discussion. Tony Uphoff, he's the president and CEO over at Thomas Publishing Company. Thanks so much for joining us. Really a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Enlightening stuff there. All right, coming up, how one platform uses data to help companies make better business decisions. Stick with us here at Cheddar.